Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wildcat Dash here on Dash Sports TV. My name is Jacob Mennuti. I'm joined once again, as always, with my co-host Ryan Wall. Ryan, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. I can't wait to get into Wildcat basketball after a really good stretch, two straight wins.
Yeah, how about this Arizona Wildcats team? Very impressive performance from last night's game against Washington State. If you missed it last night, maybe you fell asleep before tip-off, which I don't blame you because last night's game didn't start until 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So shout out to the Pac-12 for scheduling that so late. But anyways, if you didn't catch last night's game, no worries because we're about to recap it for you. We'll start with our initial thoughts from this game, Ryan. Like you just mentioned, a little two-game win streak. Wildcats kind of building something a little bit here with that second win in a row. What did you see last night?
I just saw a flat out it was a beatdown because it was just the level of talent was just so different between the two teams. And it showed that from the beginning. And even the first game they played Washington State back a few weeks ago, early in the season. The Wildcats, even I wouldn't even say last night, actually. I mean, they scored 69 points, which is pretty good. Their offense was playing better than they have been over the past month at some points. But when you're playing like Washington State, I believe is ranked as one of the worst teams in the Pac-12. So, I mean, that was a game where they needed that bounce-back win at home.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I was a little nervous about this game going into it. I think it was kind of setting up to be one of those sneaky tough games for Arizona. I don't know. I know Williams was averaging like 30 points over the last couple games heading into this one. They just came off with that, triple overtime win against Stanford. Washington State's also a pretty good rebounding team. So, which Arizona has struggled with over the last couple games with rebounding. So I don't know. I honestly was a little bit worried going into this game, but I mean, Arizona really showed up and played another great game. I mean, back-to-back games now where the Wildcats actually looked like a good team, and that's something that we really haven't seen too much this season. They've really struggled this season with building consistent, building off of wins and being consistent. I mean, it seems like they would have a good game and then they just couldn't build off of it, right? But now we're starting to really see it and see this team kind of come together late. They played really well against USC and won that game, and now they played well against Washington State. So 2 games in a row now, just a lot of great performances from last night's game. I want to mention Brown in particular. I mean, what a night for him, right? I mean, stepped in for Kirk Creasland. He only had 7 points, but he had 8 assists and only 1 turnover, and he also had 4 blocks. So like he really was putting up numbers. He guarded Noah Williams, I think, most of that night and kept him in check. I think he only scored like 8 points or something like that, and I remember his shooting percentage was not very good. So he did a really nice job of keeping him in check. Who we mentioned was coming into this game very hot. I thought Akinjo had another great game. 19-4 and 4 steals as well. Dalen Terry and Benedict Mathurin played really great too. So just another nice game from the Wildcats. It was impressive. It was an impressive win.
Yeah, and yeah, you mentioned Terrell Brown. He did it all, a little bit of everything last night, and really helped the team. But the guy that really stuck out to me last night was Dalen Terry. I made a tweet last night, and I still believe that it was Dalen Terry's best performance to this point of the season as a Wildcat. I mean, he against the UCLA in that win last week, he hit a few threes, but he still was a little hesitant to drive. But last night, he didn't hit a 3 last night, but he seemed like he was handling the ball a little bit more, which I've been harping on, and I want to see more of that because I believe that's where he can be the best version of himself. And last night he did that. He drove a little more. He wasn't hesitating while getting to the rim. And yeah, he had 8 points. He 4 rebounds. He was 4 for 6 from the field, which is very good. The number that sticks out to me is just the 6 shots taken. That was his second most shots that he's taken in a game this year, and that's what I want him to do. I just want him to keep shooting. There's 2 games left, and him especially, I want him to shoot 10 shots. I just want him to keep, growing as a player because we know, I mean, these next 2 games and even the last few, the team at some points looked like they weren't interested. They've regained that and look like they want to play again, but they need to develop these young players somehow, and he could be a big part of this future for Sean Miller.
Yeah, it's funny that we like Dalen Terry taking 6 shots, but 6 is still not enough. Like you just said, like I would love to see Dalen Terry take more shots, like you just mentioned, because we've seen it in high school. I feel like we talk about this all the time, but I want to say it one more time. Like we've seen it in high school where Dalen Terry can ball and get buckets for you. It's just because I don't know, he's just not playing the point guard position, or he's just not needed to score that many points. But you're totally right. I think this season is a wash at this point, right? This is all about just getting better and not necessarily about winning and what's next for this team, because there's only 2 games left for this team, right, for this season. So I think it's all about developing the young players and getting them more involved. But I like what I'm seeing so far from Arizona. These last 2 games, they just look like they're having fun, right? Like when Dalen Terry threw down that monster dunk, the whole bench got excited. Like Matherin ran over, and was like smiling at him and like hyping him up after that dunk in the middle of the play. Like it was just fun to see. Like the guys were having fun. Like the guys were hooping last night, and that's not something that we didn't really see that energy. Like we were just racking on them last week about how we didn't see a lot of energy. We did our show last week right after that UCLA game, right before the USC game. So we were ragging on them right before they started to get hot. But that was something that we were saying. It just didn't look like they wanted to play, and they were just getting out hustled. I haven't really seen that these last 2 games, and I was really shocked to see them play so well against USC, because USC is a physical team, and Arizona was the better team against USC, and they were the better team again last night against Washington State. So I think they're trending in the right direction right now. I think it's a good thing for Arizona to kind of build off this momentum, because that's all they really wanted to do, right? Is just finish these last couple of games strong, and I think they're doing that right now. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of positive last night over the last week about right now with the Wildcats, but something that's just concerning, and it's concerned me all season long, and this is the one thing that doesn't seem to be getting better, is just the amount of 3-point shots being taken per game. I'm not really concerned. This team's not an elite 3-point shooting team and hasn't showed that really at any point besides, Matherin some points here and there. But last night they took 11 3-point shots. That's just not acceptable, and you're not going to consistently contend and beat good teams game in and game out if you're only shooting 11 shots from downtown. I mean, last night they played really good defense, and so they made up for spots here and there. But I mean, you see these other teams where they have these sharpshooters and these guys that are knocking down shots, and Arizona just doesn't. And I feel like that's been a theme all along through this season.
See, that's interesting, because I think Arizona is, at least by the numbers, I'm pretty sure, last time I checked, that they were number 1 in 3-point percentage in the conference. Like, I don't know if it's maybe just because they don't take a lot of 3-pointers, but like either way, I think, I agree with you. I think only 11 threes is not enough for this team, especially in an era of basketball where 3-pointers is so important, right? But I don't know. I mean, say what you want. It's so hard to kind of think of this team as not a good offensive team, but I actually think they are, at least by the numbers. Like, I just don't see a stat that really shows me that Arizona is not a good offensive team. I mean, I think they're top 3, top 2 in scoring. They lead in assists and total assists and assists per game in the conference. So this team can score and shoot. It's just kind of all about, taking the right shots and taking enough shots, right? And I mean, I guess this is a kind of a good segue into our next segment. But I mean, whose fault do you think that is that Arizona is only taking 11 shots in this game? I mean, I feel like I guess we can move on to our next topic. It's been kind of a hot topic this past week. I feel like it's always been talked about before, but I think more so now, just because at his weekly presser, Sean Miller said that he has not discussed a contract extension with the Arizona Athletic Department. So, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, Miller's contract, expires after the 2022 season. So not this season, but the following season. So what do you think about that? I mean, you and I both kind of have very strong thoughts about this question, but I'll let you sound off first here. I mean, what do you think about Arizona extending Sean Miller? Do you think he's done enough for this program to earn himself a contract extension?
I don't, but I don't want to discredit. Last week he had his 300th victory, and that was great and everything, and should be celebrated. But I mean, I wouldn't reward him for this season, because I still view this season as I just feel like the negatives outride the positives with this team. I don't feel like that many, because it is about the development of youth, but they're still trying to win, here and there. But I don't believe that any of these players, like, for example, Dalen Terry, I mean, yeah, he's showing signs, but he really isn't. He basically he basically got worse. He came here and he was like a high 4-star recruit, for example, and now he's like being like he barely isn't even, he can't even really score the ball to that level. That's just a little example, but the thing that sticks out to me is I just think he's a mediocre coach. I mean, I hate to say it because everyone wants to praise him and this and that, but I mean, I'll be the guy to say it. He's a mediocre coach. He hasn't got to one Final Four in 13 years. And I mean, yeah, he's got some good recruits, but as we've discussed in the past, I don't view him as an elite or even good in-game coach. He's confused at many times, late in games. He's one of the worst coaches in college basketball I've seen late in games. He blows, continues to blow these big games like here and there, and just doesn't seem to get better. And it just keeps getting back to me after that close Oregon loss about 2 weeks ago when he said, like, I got to be better late in games, and that's on me. But my whole question is, like, when do you get better? Like what do you need, another 10 years? Like, to me, after when his contract's done, they're about 14 years in. Like, if you're a so-called elite coach, you should get to a Final Four.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think that's fair. But I just don't really know. I mean, like, I see where you're coming from, and I definitely believe in like a lot of what you just said. And I think, Arizona should keep, I don't know. I just think Arizona should keep Sean Miller around just for two reasons. I've really thought about this. I think just for one, I just don't think there's any coach out there that is a clear upgrade over Sean Miller, right? I mean, like, unless you can go get Mark Few from Gonzaga, which is probably not even an option. I mean, there just aren't any available coaches out there that are a clear upgrade over Sean Miller, right? Like, yes, Miller has, some legit criticism that you can give him. The late game situations in particular, I feel like Arizona never has a timeout to use in the final 2 minutes. Like, those are always gone for some reason. So I think I feel you on that, but I just don't know. I don't know. I hear a lot of the criticism is just like the NCAA. He hasn't been to the NCAA tournament since 2018. No Final Fours, but I think the NCAA tournament drought a bit overplayed in my opinion. I think that 2019 season, was probably talent-wise probably the worst team Arizona has had since the 1980s. It was only because that recruiting class got blown up by ESPN. That whole DeAndre Ayton scandal, and I mean, don't even get me started on that. But I think that's kind of why that team was not very good. And then we saw with last year's team, that team was going to make the tournament, and I thought they were decent enough. They had that little run there, where they beat Washington in the Pac-12 tournament, and it kind of looked like that team was picking up some momentum. So and then of course this season with the self-imposed postseason ban. So I don't know. I think this program has kind of been through a lot in the last couple of years, and I just don't really understand what more you could ask for Sean Miller right now. Like, we're all begging for these 3 or 4 year players, and then no more 5 stars, right? And then Miller does this just this season, and now everyone's calling for his job, right? Like, I just don't understand it. Like, Sean Miller is doing what he can with this team, and he's doing just what we all asked for, which was more 3 or 4 year players. Like, this is a process. People need to understand that, these guys, these 3 or 4 year players don't just get good after year 1, right? Like, that's why they're 3 or 4 year players, because they need the first couple of years to develop. So, I mean, I just going to a Final Four is so hard. Winning a national championship is so hard. Like, it's a process. It's not something that you can just haul in and just figure it out in 1 year. Like, this is a process that needs to take time to develop. And I know you said 14 years, how much more time does he need? I don't know. I think in this case, we've seen from the team and kind of the new style of recruiting that Sean Miller has done, with the, international recruiting and bringing in these guys that are not, these big 5-star McDonald's All-Americans, right? I think in this certain situation, I think what he's doing needs a few more years to develop. And I don't think it's fair for Arizona to kind of cut it off and just be, not be patient with the process. Because I think we have seen, at least I've seen enough from this year's team to kind of make me optimistic about next year and the years after that. We've seen, these guys play, where it's just like, oh my God, this, Benedict Mathurin, holy crap, he's going to be a lottery pick. Like, James Akinjo, holy cow, he this dude's a walking bucket. Like, we've seen it before, right? Like, we've seen flashes, and I feel like I've seen enough from this team to kind of be optimistic and kind of trust Sean Miller's process in the next 3 years. But I totally agree. I think what he's doing right now is not the traditional style of Arizona basketball. Arizona kind of just ran through the West, before the Miller era. So it's kind of hard to really, even during the Miller era, early on, they were still running through the West. So I think this kind of new recruiting strategy and new approach to building this program needs to take some time. But I do agree with you. I think that there's some legit criticism that Sean Miller cannot run away from.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's something else that comes to my mind is when I think about it. So like last year and 2017 or 2018 when DeAndre Ayton was here. So that's like 2 out of the last like 5 years, about 4 to 5 years, where they've had, one or more top 5-star recruit and they couldn't get the job done. And yeah, we've seen in the past and with other schools, Duke, Kentucky, it's hard to win with young players. I understand that. But my question to them and Sean Miller is, what's your future and your goals of this program? Because is it the 4-year guys? Because what tells me is it isn't. Because let me explain. Is this past year, Sean Miller was in gyms, scouting Josh Christopher, Zaire Williams. He was scouting all those guys. He wanted those guys really bad. So it's like if he would have got them, it's the same Arizona that's getting the 5-star guys. It's not the foreign guys. All these foreign guys, to me, came in. First of all, I will give Sean Miller an A+ grade by getting all these guys, because he got all these guys, you remember, really late on in the recruiting process. So that is a great job, but it almost seems like that was like the fallback option. It doesn't seem like there's like, a set plan where this is what he wants to do. But if that's what he wants to do, then yeah, I would basically pick like Kerr Kriisa. He'll be here for a few years. So Kerr Kriisa, I would say until he's like a junior or senior, if Sean Miller can't, make some noise, then I would let him go. I'm not necessarily saying he should 100% be done, but I mean, I just think the vision needs to be known, because like as I just said, it wasn't. Sean Miller's never really came out and pushed hard for the overseas guys until, he really had to, and that's when he adapted.
I think everybody wants the 5-star recruits, right? Like, you're Arizona, you're, a borderline blue blood program in college basketball. So of course you're going to go scout those 5-stars, because you never know, right? Like, why would you not go look at those 5-stars? But I don't think recruiting internationally was the fallback option. I don't think you would try so hard to talk to these international recruits as, a plan B, right? Like, I think this was the plan heading into this season, and I think they pulled it off, right? So I think, you said you gave them an A+. So I mean, like, Sean Miller's doing everything that he's supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah, I'm giving it because under the circumstances, because I really think he struck out, and he knew he struck out, and he had to make a move, and he switched, and he really ended up with one of the top recruiting classes in the country by getting 6 4-star players, which was great, and I love that, and I would like to see that happen. He already has 3 next year, and maybe a few more, but I mean, I just think he needs to set that tempo and set that mindset and make it be known. I mean, because I'm not off for 5-star guys. Nico, Josh, and Zeke also, they were here for like less than a year, basically. Like, they weren't here. So it's like, I would love to see guys here for a few years, but I want to see something in action and to stick to a plan.
Well, that's the thing. This is such a new plan. Like, this is just in the beginning. This is the first season of this kind of new approach of going for the national recruits and these multi-year players. It's going to take some time, right? Like, this team is playing exactly how we all expected them to play. Like, this team was picked middle of the conference, and where are they at right now? They're middle of the conference. Like, nobody was expecting Arizona to win games. So I just don't understand why people are calling for his job, as if we all didn't expect a season like this to happen. And I think this team is go ahead.
Yeah, and just leading off of that is a reason that I've called for his job this season. It's just because he seemed to have, some would question, lose the locker room at some points. With Benedict Mathurin supposedly acting up, whatever, getting benched, and then the following game coming off the bench. And so, yeah, people want to question that, and I think they have the right to. I mean, I know the allegations, but the allegations and all that stuff's not on the players. That's on Sean Miller. If anything, Sean Miller should have been fired a year or two ago, because that's still, like, he's not getting a pass for that. That's still really bad. I don't like cool, you got DeAndre Ayton, but if you or any of your staff had to pay him or bribe him or this and that, that's still not, you didn't get him. And that's why I think he should be punished for that. If anything, it's maybe not on the court, but I don't think he should be rewarded for that. So it's not like, I don't think he should be like, oh, like allegations, this and that. This season, them not going to the tournament's on Sean Miller, and he should be the blame for that.
And that was the point that I was gonna make, because I don't think we can ignore that, right? Like, I don't think you can give Sean Miller a contract extension with these NCAA investigation, and these allegations hanging over your head, because Arizona has sanctions, right? Like, I forgot what numbers they are, and but we don't know how serious they are because they haven't released them to us. But these are a big deal. Like, I just can't. That would be the only reason why I don't think you bring Sean Miller back, is just because of the NCAA investigations. It's so hard to give him a contract extension right now with those looming over the program's head right now. And I mean, that's just so frustrating, right? Because this thing happened such a long time ago, right? And the NCAA is just taking their sweet time with this right now, and it's really kind of throwing a wrench in this program's plans. But I do agree with you. I think if Sean Miller is not the head coach of Arizona after 2022, it should be because of those NCAA investigation allegations, not because he didn't get the job done in Arizona, or he's not doing a good enough job. But I totally agree. I wish these things would just go away, and we would just get the ban, or not get the ban. Just get this over with, right? Because it's so tiring, and it's really, I mean, I don't think we have time to fully get into it now, but it's just so annoying, right? Because, like, the players that are on this team now had no involvement with what happened, 3 or 4 years ago. So, like, it's just really unfortunate to see. And I wish, that this would just kind of go away so that Arizona can focus on the future and not have that wrench sticking in the middle of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it just shows how much of a tie that the university has to Sean Miller, and that they want to keep him, because right now their actions of even keeping him through the allegations and everything, that tells me that they're going to re-sign him eventually. Maybe it's not now, maybe it's next season. But I mean, to keep a guy through all this, it's like what are you going to fire him now when you're already going through the allegations?
Right, yeah.
When you could have fired him, got rid of him during it. So yeah, it just it makes me wonder. Yeah.
It'll certainly be interesting to see what happens with that. But why don't we go ahead and move on? We ran a little late on that second topic, but understandably so. So why don't we go into our final topic now and preview kind of the final 2 games of the Wildcats schedule. These indeed will be Arizona's final games of the season, since, of course, they won't be participating in the Pac-12 or NCAA tournament with that self-imposed postseason ban. Like we mentioned earlier, the Wildcats do have a very good opportunity here to finish the season strong, right? They're riding that little 2-game win streak into tomorrow's game against Washington. I'm not really expecting this game to kind of give Arizona any problems, since the Huskies are just not very good. But I am, however, looking more towards that final game against Oregon, which got rescheduled to this coming Monday. That was the game that was supposed to be played early on in the season, but I think a COVID scare within the Oregon's program postponed that game. So now we're playing it on Monday. But I mean, what do you think of these next 2 games? How do you think they're going to go for Arizona here, Ryan? Is there a chance that Arizona can end this season on a 4-game win streak?
Yeah, I think there's a very good shot. That Washington game, as you said, should be the easier game, and they won by 27 points back in December, and that was one of their biggest victories of the season. And yeah, I really think that they could win that game again if they just basically play what they did and do and show that improved defense, and even just like a mediocre, just good offense, not great, but even if they just do what they and play how they did, I really think they can beat Washington. But yeah, just the Oregon game has I don't know. It sucks that that game got scheduled as the last game going into the off season for the Wildcats, because I mean, that was such a disappointing loss by 3 points at the McCall Center. a few weeks ago. Yeah, I think that game could give them some problems.
I feel like every game against Oregon ends up being a nail biter in which Arizona loses. Like I feel like Arizona is always on the other end of those close games. But yeah, I don't think Washington worries me. I think their offense is not very good at all. They're one of the worst rebounding teams in the conference, and Arizona is a good rebounding team sometimes when they want to be. But I don't know. I think that game doesn't worry me. I think they handled them really well the first time around. But I do agree that Oregon game is going to be a lot closer. I think Oregon's playing really good basketball right now. I mean, they got whooped by USC earlier this week, but that was really only their only hiccup recently, at least in this month. So, I mean, they've won 6 of the last 7 games, and they were just the better team against Arizona in that first matchup, between those two teams. So, I don't know. I think Oregon is a physical team. They outmatched them in the first game and proved that they're a more physical team than Arizona. So, Oregon just has a lot of dudes who can hustle for rebounds. So Arizona is certainly going to need to be ready, because I think this game against Oregon is going to be one for the ages, as it always is, as we just mentioned. Like I feel like these games are always close, and Arizona ends up losing them all the time. But I don't know. I think unfortunately, I think Arizona seems to always be on the losing end of that. But we'll end up seeing what happens. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the case normally in all these close games against these really good teams. But yeah, I know Oregon lost to USC early in the week. They bounced back against Stanford, really good road win. I still view Oregon as a top 3 team in the Pac-12, and I think they're going to make a really good postseason run. I mean, as we saw, Chris Duarte hit that 3-pointer dagger against Arizona a few weeks back, but he didn't play a great game overall. But it's in Oregon. I'm scared about this game. I think they could get blown out. I really do. I mean, I could see another close game, but I could also see a 15 or more point loss. I really can. I mean, and that would just be a shame, because even if they beat Washington 2-game or 3-game win streak, then they lose that one. I mean, they still won 3 of the last 4, which is very good, but have a little somber effect on the going into the off season for them.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think Oregon's a pretty solid team. I think they kind of had, I think right now, I think the committee kind of has them as a bubble team, which is interesting. I think only because, they've missed a couple of games. I think if they had a full season and a full schedule, I think they would have a better record. It's still a good record. I think they're like 15-3 or 15-5 or something. So, I mean, it's still an NCAA tournament worthy record, But I think they are, at least a top 3 team in this conference. But I don't really know. I think Arizona, if they on a 3-game win streak heading into this game, I'll be a little more confident, because they're riding that momentum, and it looks like they kind of the energy is back with this team. We were just talking about it before, how they looked a little sluggish, and maybe the end of the season was kind of catching up to them. But it actually kind of looks like they got a little bit of spark, and I think Kirk Creasel is going to be back in that rotation. So, you never know, right? We'll have to see. But I think we're running out of time here, so I think that's where we're going to end our show this week. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching, as always. A reminder that we are live here every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're still on that awkward 1-hour time difference, so bear with us on that. But check us out over on our website, where we post all of our live shows and highlights from our shows over on dashsports.tv. You can also follow us on all of social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. So thank you for tuning in, and hopefully we will see you next week.
Peace.